Welcome to episode 50 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my first time guest this week, is Warren Sklar. How are you doing, Warren?
Hey, Dave, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thanks for coming on. For those of you who don't know who Warren is, Warren is a IT consultant, but he also is on the very popular Mac to the Future Facebook group, right?
The very popular Facebook group.
Yeah, yes. About 3,000 members of that. I mean, I just got onto the group probably about a year or so ago. I'm really catching up with stuff on here on Mac. So
yeah, no, it's I think this is third year. We started it because we were part of a different Apple group that kind of fell apart, and we're like, hey, we could do this ourselves, and I can do it with somebody else. Yeah.
Other than your occasional trolls, but you, it actually is a pretty well moderated group, and you should check it out. I'm going to put a link up to the group in the show notes for those of you who are on Facebook. You can ask to join, and if they like you, they might let you in. So.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's a fun group, and then of course Warren and I are also hanging out with our best pal, Guy Searle, the crazy man himself, the host of the mymac.com podcast. We do Mac to the Future Go on Wednesday nights, and we usually have about 4 or 5 people watching.
Yeah, but it's
fun. But I do it as well as you.
Therapy for me. Yeah, it's
that's why we do it, because we enjoy tech, and it gets me to play with my lighting, and because we do video, and that also gets published out too.
And it makes Guy happy.
And it makes Guy happy. We want Guy happy because we like Guy.
He needs to be happy. Yes.
So, but anyway, today, this week's show, we're gonna hit on the news. Of course, always a lot of good news stories. Of course, because Warren is is a new guest of the show, we're going to ask him his what gear he has in the iOS world, and I can kind of guarantee he probably has a few things. And then we are going to talk about the new Apple smart battery case, and then battery cases in general. I've an interesting discussion about the case. We're going to talk about, and then. Two-factor authentication is a good topic. A lot of people ask about that. I wanted to hit on that a little bit more. Then we'll wrap it up with another good topic. And then I know if you happen to have a pick, Warren, we'll throw one in there for an app, and then we'll wrap it up. So, so the first story that caught my eye was this silliness. Apple sued over not letting customer disable two-factor authentication after 2 weeks. Really? So this guy in New York, Jay Brodsky, this is in Mac Rumors, decides to, he files, as they say, a frivolous class action lawsuit against Apple, alleging the company's so-called coercive policy of not letting people disable two-factor authentication. So, like I said, really?
Okay.
I mean...
Yeah, anything for money.
Well, I mean, what's your thoughts on two-factor? We're going to talk about a little bit in depth on the topic, but... I think it's important.
It's important. So you and I both do IT consulting or work, and not so much anymore, but it used to be. Yeah. When Factor first came out, people really resisted it.
Right.
They did not want it. They were scared of it. They didn't want the extra steps involved. And there's still a good amount of people that will not have it turned on.
Right.
But it's... As you said, it's something that just needs to be at this point because it's too easy to
it does.
Guess passwords and things like that. Occasionally you'll hear somebody that has a problem where it doesn't work right. Like maybe they had a device that would show the code that's not showing it, but it's very rare. Yeah. And as far as this lawsuit goes, I mean, this guy...
Silliness.
He makes some claims that aren't even true. He says he has to put in... Yeah. He has to do two-factor authentication every time he logs in. So
no, he doesn't.
I know. Yeah, so he's making a lot worse than it is.
Oh, he really is. Waste of the court's time.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like you and I who have all these devices, I'm sure, and we add a new device, the whole house lights up and rings and dings and codes everywhere and things like that. So it's a thing, but at the end of the day, it's for your protection. I didn't know about that 2 week thing, though. I mean, I think that is true, and I didn't know that you could not disable it after 2 weeks. So that's actually new to me.
I found out. Let's save that for the topic. We'll talk about that during the topics section here, and we'll move on and finish our news here. The second story, iOS 12.1.4, this update came out. I've got a link in the show notes to the OS X Daily, one of my favorite go-to tech sites. And they, of course, just like everybody else talking about this, this now resolves that serious group FaceTime security flaw that existed in previous builds, because all those steps you had to go, the easy steps that you had to go through to get it to somebody to connect to your FaceTime and spy on you. Mm-hmm. It was a small update, 98 megabytes, took very little time to update. But what did you think about the whole FaceTime thing?
So first of all, with the update, just it's interesting, as you know, they don't let you use group FaceTime unless you have the update. So I made my family do the update, even though they probably don't even know what group FaceTime is. So I'm like, just do the update. Just trust me about that. And of course, if you're on beta software,
right,
you cannot use group FaceTime. I'm probably thinking tomorrow. We're on Monday now. I'm guessing tomorrow, Wednesday, there'll be a beta out to address that for the beta testers. The bug was real. Not a good look for Apple. The first day or two was really hairy for them because they took a while to acknowledge it. There was room, then it started to surface that they might have known about it for a couple of days. But they made up for it. I think they went out to the kid's house. I don't know who they sent, but they sent somebody there. They're going to give them some money, give them some recognition.
Oh, they should. I think wasn't the kid the mother originally told the kid not to say anything. Was that what it was?
No, I'm not sure. No, the kid told the mother, and the mother tried to tell Apple, and Apple
laughed at her.
They're like, go file a bug report. They have a radar program.
Feedback at apple.com.
Yeah, I don't even know how to do report. There's another bug out there where they're not telling Apple.
Of course.
In Mac OS, but that's maybe different. I mean, there's going to be bugs.
Absolutely.
This is not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. And, it's how a company deals with it is really the main factor. And then, of course, everybody got all panicky. Government agents.
Exactly.
They were going to ask questions to Apple and things like that.
I just shook my head. I just, how much press this got was just beyond recognition. I mean, you got all the mainstream media, all the magazines, all the websites. It happened. It happened. It's a bug. I mean, but all the steps you had to go through to actually enable it for it to happen were enough that it took a little bit, don't you think?
Well, once the word was out, people knew how to do it. So in the time that the word came out, I think that day in the morning, people knew how to do it. I think around what it was like 2 or 3 o'clock, they disabled the FaceTime.
Yeah.
So in theory, there was a few hours where somebody could have, used it. I wish I would have probably spied on a few people. I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
Anyway, go out, update it, run the updates. I know Warren, as well as I, always recommend when their updates come out, just run them. I mean, the Apple doesn't release them just because they want to. We've had a few in the past and I've talked about them on previous episodes where sometimes there was a bug with the bug that it fixed, and it's rare that it happens, but
very rare. It used to be, people who are older than us have a tendency not to want to update patches and things like that because back then it was a little bit different. And in the Facebook group, you'll see, not so much our group, but you'll see iOS 12 point blah, blah, blah is out. Should I update? And
always ask that question.
Yes, everybody asks. I'm like, Yes, go for it.
You and I both get that question asked probably every single time Apple releases an update. My friends do it all the time. I mean, I'm sure yours as well, and all your clients too.
And we never say no, and they still don't learn.
So. They still learn. So, but go out, update it. And of all those you guys out there, listening, guys and gals are listening, I always say update it and don't worry about it. If it's a problem, it's rare. So anyway, we'll move on to the next article. Actually, you and I talked about this last week during Back to the Future Go show, and I figured I'd like my listeners to hear about it as well, because I'm really irritated about it, and so absolutely pleased I have walked away from AT&T. So as AT&T is sued by Sprint for misleading the 5GE branding. And what that is it's a 5G evolution, which is supposed to be the next version of 5G, which isn't out yet. So they're misleading customers by you go onto the phone and it says all of a sudden from it being 4G or LTE to 5GE. That's a little confusing and a little misleading if you ask me. Well, like I said in the article, it isn't going to get released until at least 2020. And Sprint and T-Mobile, of course, are working on a merger. So, once that merger happens, which more than likely will, they're talking about accelerating getting 5G in place. So, but yeah, then now Sprint wants AT&T to stop from using that damaging branding that's out there. So, and in fact, AT&T provided a statement saying that we understand why our competitors don't like what we are doing. Well, yeah, I don't think customers do either. But and they say our customers love it. Whatever. So and it goes on and on. What's your thoughts on this?
My real thought is I'm actually more surprised instead of suing that these other companies don't just copy and follow suit. They're like, say, hey, if AT&T is doing it, hey, mine is 5. Sprint has 5 super crazy EG whatever, because evidently the phone maker Apple and Android doesn't seem to mind.
Yeah, apparently.
So I mean, if they want to play that game, then it could get into that kind of game where people are just misleading or misleading data. I mean, the reality is the average person out there doesn't really even understand the difference between 3G, 4G, LTE, 5G. A lot of people are just hearing news stories about maybe 5G, and in their mind they're just like, hey, maybe it's faster. But a lot of people don't even know that. Like I get people asking me all the time, what's the difference between the bands?
Right.
So it's sneaky. I think it's funny that Sprint's suing, and one company is suing the other company over it.
Marketing.
Yeah.
They don't want to marketing something that it really isn't really what it is. So,
and but it is right. It's something. It's an enhanced. I think it's an enhanced version of what they have
up
now.
Up to 4G LTE. Really.
Yeah, but it's a little bit fast, maybe a little bit faster than their normal LTE, I guess.
Either way, I had been extremely unhappy with AT&T, especially with their pricing, and I've talked about this before. And I moved on to T-Mobile. I'm very happy with them. So
you like T-Mobile? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
I have Verizon. I went from AT&T to Verizon, and I couldn't tell you if it's any better or different. It costs probably the same.
I like the perks related to what T-Mobile provides. And then,
Taco Tuesday, man.
I got my taco last week. Yeah, there was that T-Mobile Tuesdays they have free stuff.
That's right.
I think it's a taco week, and then you get free Netflix. You get I think MLB at Bat's going to be probably available again. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers it is again. They've done it for the last 2 or 3 years. So, and so a lot of cool nifty things and the CEO of T-Mobile, John Legere, is such a trip. I don't know if you ever follow anything on social media. He already, because T-Mobile just blew away their earnings for this past quarter. He's going to dye his hair magenta.
Yeah, he's in that case. I mean, anyway, I have Verizon and I have Fios here, and I have Verizon on the phone, and we probably pay like $3,000 a day for them, and I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, listen, we're paying all this money to you. Well, give me something. And they're like, you can have HBO for like a month for free. I'm like, all right, that's
okay.
That's okay.
Anyway, next article I wanted to talk about was this was in 9 to 5 Mac. This was a comment, but a comment piece, but there was a lot of news about it too on other sites. Apple is taking its in-store iPhone push too far by promoting upgrades instead of repairs. Now, it's no secret that Apple is trying to be pushing upgrades. I mean, I was just in the Apple store the other day. As my friend broke a screen on his iPhone SE, and he had to bring it in. They brought it in. They replaced the screen for him. $129 later, and then they couldn't get the digitizer to sync. So I told them, if they're going to give you a free phone, a replacement phone, I would do it. So I was kind of surprised. I was waiting to see it because I knew this article was already out there when I was at the store, and I wanted to see if that they're going to start pushing. Hey, what you should do is trade this phone in and get an iPhone at 10R or a 10S or 10S Max. And they said it's a new policy that Apple retail employees are being told to do by the techs. So, what do you think of this?
I mean, I could see why they would be.
No, me too.
Yeah, if the sales are down on that, and every other company in the world does it, because Apple historically hasn't been that kind of company. It's an issue, I guess. Not an issue. It's a conversation piece.
Right.
So I could see them doing it. I've been in Apple stores where I don't personally, I'll listen in. I never really hear.
Yeah, me either.
I never really hear like high sales pitches, things like that. In fact, if you hang out long enough, you'll see people coming in with like, equipment that's older than my son, who's 50 years old.
Yeah.
Work at the Genius Bar, and they'll happily help you. I mean, they're not. Yeah, they're not commission based. I don't think. I mean, they're not commission based, but this was, I guess, a corporate decision to push the phone in particular, because the sales were bad this year. And you know what? Good for them. I don't blame them if that's the case. And every other company does it. And a lot of people, hang on to old phones, and
as well they should.
They should, but it's a thing we use every day. It's something that's we're using constantly. Yeah. And the minute people complain to me about their phone not being able to do this, or it's old or that, and it's 3 or 4 years old, I'm like, you know what? It's something you're going to want to replace. It's something that you use enough, and it's going to make you unhappy if you don't enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I've talked about this on many episodes relating to you designing which phone you want and not want. You know what? It's your choice. That's what I love about Apple, and I love the fact that you could go as far back as an iPhone 5S and still be satisfied, with what it does, because Apple is still supporting it with the latest OS. Now, obviously, with iOS 13 potentially coming out soon, then some of those older phones are probably going to start to be sliding off. I would not be surprised if the 5S is at end of life, and the 6 and possibly the 6S. You never know. But time will tell. We'll obviously be here talking about it when it does. But the great thing is there are a lot of people out there with older phones, and they're current. Compare that to Android with older phones that are 4 years out on security updates. So, so just think of it that way. For us being iOS and iPhone users. So. The last story we want to talk about is I caught this one was making the rounds on shows around the internet. Many popular iPhone apps are secretly recording your screen without asking. There's no way a user would know. I don't know if you reviewed this article or not, but they're talking about major companies like Air Canada, Expedia, Hollister were recording every tap and swipe you made on iPhone apps. Now, of course, this is in TechCrunch, and sometimes I question things that TechCrunch writes, but I could see it happening. They're trying. Basically, I think what they're really doing. I don't think they're looking at your private information. I think we're looking to what you're doing as far as to get trends. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, I made a point in the maybe last week to you guys or somebody, but
yeah,
Apple's secure. They're privacy focused.
mm-hmm.
But when you install an app, it says, give me permission for this and that and that. And at that point, Apple kind of is passing it over and say, listen, they're getting, you're giving them access.
Right.
Apple starts to get a little annoyed when they say we're gonna access it for this and that, and then they use it for something else, and that's when they put the brakes on and say,
right,
no, you're not. You said you couldn't do this, but you're doing that, so that's no good. But yeah, it's again, these things are, internet connected devices in our pocket,
right. Yeah,
and and we're going to have companies like data from us, and they're going to keep trying to do it. So I think Apple told them to stop it at this point. I think they either changed the code or pulled the they made them change the code.
Well, obviously they got called out, so yeah. And it looks like it's a lot of them is travel type apps like Expedia and Air Canada and Singapore Airlines and others that are in this list of apps that were doing it. So,
and I can't even I'm not even sure what they're trying to get out of that.
Yeah, I wasn't either. So, again, sensationalizing it a little bit, but be aware of it. I mean, just watch the terms of service when you install an app. It's going. I know many of us don't read the EULA when it pops up. No one ever does. So, if you're real concerned about privacy, you should do some double checking.
Flip phone. If you're really concerned with privacy, get a flip phone.
Yeah, get a flip phone. That I still. To this day, I'm sure you see them too. Every day, I think I was at the airport the other day getting my global entry for my upcoming international trip, and I'm in there, and I see all these. There's a bunch of people with flip phones still. It's like, God, how could you function with a flip phone? I just get a basic Android if you're just least of anything, so you at least have some internet connection. Because I'm sure the carriers are probably charging these people a ton of the money for just having that flip phone. They don't want that service anymore. They want data. That's their money now. So but I don't know. Doesn't make sense. Well, anyway, that was all the stories I picked out this week, and wanted to have Warren give us some of his insights. And speaking of insights, I wanted to actually, because he is a new guest and the first time on the show, though hopefully have many to come in the future, that we find out what types of iOS devices he has. And I have this feeling that him and I are very much alike, because I buy everything new and I buy everything when it comes out. And I trade things in. You go even more to the extreme. So let's start off. Which iPhone do you have?
I think you're actually worse than me on this round.
Okay.
Yeah, because you got one thing I don't. So right now I got the 10s Max.
Okay.
That I replaced from a 10.
We did. You and I both did the same thing, and people probably shake their heads, just like when we had my debate, and you made fun of me, and I was well deserved when I bought the 8, and then a month later, 2 months later, I bought the 10.
So, and my wife beat you on that one, because I made her replace her 7. She got the 8. A week later, she got the 10. 10s.
Oh, I don't feel so bad now.
She's like, "No, you're right." All that. So I have that. I have a Apple Watch Series 4.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, and I had an iPad. I had last year's iPad Pro, 10.5 inch,
which I did,
with the keyboard and everything like that. And I really never used it. I just don't. I mean, I have 2 MacBooks now. I have an Air, and I have a Pro.
Okay.
The new Air, the new Pro. So I found myself, and I always kind of have one at-home MacBook and one travel laptop.
Gotcha.
So I never really utilized the iPad. So I sold it, and then I'm like,
until I enticed you today when I posted that article in Mac for the Future about that $249 iPad.
But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get the new
right. Pro. I know. I would say, but people's I had you in mind when I posted that today, and
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know, I mean, as we record this, Amazon had posted they were during a normal time of year, not Christmas, $249 for an iPad 9.7 inch, the current version that does support the Apple Pencil,
Yep.
32 gigs, so the Wi-Fi, just incredible price.
So I bought during the Christmas time. I bought a refurbed iPad Mini 4,
right?
Which I already had one, and I sold it. So I rebought it. I had one, and then I sold it, and then I bought it again because I missed it. Also because I have a drone, and the drone you could use.
Right.
You can use a iPad Mini is actually big in the drone world because if it's one of the things that fits in the controller, and you can use it to fly a drone. So I guess I got it for that. So with the rumor of the new iPad maybe coming, the Mini, do that. But for now, from now, I'm pretty much iPad Pro-less, which is
right.
not like you.
Well, I'm not, because I do have the iPad Pro 11 inch
Exactly
current model, because I just have to, and then of course I get grieved every time I buy it from the family, or not necessarily the family, the wife. Why are you buying the new model already? You already have this one. Because I had the 10.5, but you know what? I sold the 10.5 for a pretty good $1. So
I did.
It paid for most of it. So,
and that was my plan too. My plan was to sell the 10.5 and get the 11 instead. And just after thinking about it, I'm like, I'm gonna wait to see to see if I get a need for it. Well, plus, the 10s Max is so big now that
I love it. I always loved it. I missed it when I had the 10 because the 10 was smaller. I had the 8 Plus, of course, and I had the 7 Plus. So I always had the larger size phone, so I was always happy with it. And so no, I have no regrets having the Max. I love the screen, and it's zippy fast. And when we talk about the case here in a second, I'm even going to add to that love here. But that's all you got, right? That's all. No extras, no stock. Because there's a lot of other guests have told me, oh yeah, well, I've got a couple other phones sitting in the drawer somewhere. And
no, I got some parts of phones, but I'm like you. I sell.
So yeah, me too.
I'll sell everything and keep updated, and occasionally we'll keep an extra iPhone around just in case somebody's breaks and you need to swap it out for.
Actually, currently right now I have an iPad Air, which was originally my Air, and then because the wife had the Air 2, and then I had the iPad 9.7 inch, and then I moved to the 10.5 inch, and so my mother-in-law was complaining about it being super slow. She had the Air, which actually is not a bad iPad. Actually, it's still supported in iOS 12. So we upgraded her to that $249 9.7 inch iPad, which is perfect for her because she's playing Words with Friends and whatever those games. Checks her email, and that's about it. But that's her only means of computing. So
that's actually funny because my mom, when the 10.5 or the 12-inch iPad first came out.
Oh, she got the first gen, okay, which I did have.
She bought the first gen 12-inch to watch TV on.
Okay.
That's and she told me that she bought it. I'm like, that's really an expensive
TV. That's $1,200, wasn't it, at the time?
That's whatever it was at the time. She's like, well, it's just my eyes are so bad. I just need something I can watch a TV on.
Well, you could buy a cheap laptop for that for $500.
You could buy a monitor, like an 80-inch TV for that price.
Yeah, that's right. Before you knew me too, I did own both the 12.9 inch and the 10.5 inch at the same time. That's how psycho crazy I am. And
I never could get into the big one. Like I never even thought I would want it. How'd you like the 12?
At first, it was big. I mean, the first gen model was very large, and I ended up selling it. So it is big. But when I went in and then decided to buy the 11-inch iPad, I looked at the 12.9 and it was pretty good looking. I was tempted because it doesn't. The form factor is a lot smaller than the previous version of the 12.9. So
Don't tempt me, man. Don't tempt me.
I said you and I we're like, it's like we got some trouble here.
We need a
brother here. That's why I think we get along so well. So.
We need a support group
yeah, we do. Well, that's why we're in Back to the Future, right? That's our support group.
Pretty much. So, I need to change the group so I don't keep buying expensive gadgets anymore.
I know. That's just like everybody says. If you're on Instagram and you see all the pop-ups for Amazon, oh, look at this is for sale, shop now. And people they buy things on whims so easily on Instagram, so I think it's just as bad. So
when I tell you about my app pick, that will make more sense too.
All right, cool. All right, so we'll move on, and I want to talk about iPhone cases a little bit, and specifically iPhone cases that come with batteries. I was a big Mophie fan for years. Did you use Mophie cases at all on your phones?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I use the Mophie, and I'm going to put that link in the show notes as well. As Apple came out with a new Apple Smart battery case that's for the 10R, the 10S, and the 10S Max. But I was a Mophie guy forever and ever. But they started getting big and they started getting a little bulky, and I just started thinking, I'm getting kind of tired of this case a little bit. Plus, and then the other problem was at the time you had to have it was a USB charger as opposed to Lightning at the time. So that was a pain because you had both going on, even though it slid into the case and it was I always forget the micro USB, I think it is. So I started getting kind of bummed with it, and their quality kind of dropped a little bit during those years. And we're talking about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. So I kind of stopped buying Mophies for a while. So then I went back to regular cases. I had just the basic silicone or the leather case that Apple makes, and I've always been happy with it, and it's been great. So I saw on the Mac to the Future site and Facebook, and you said that, hey, I bought one of these, and I said I'm tempted. But I waited. So, and then your first impressions were, you said that were
pretty. They were good. I put it back on. So my first impression is it definitely adds bulk and weight to it, especially on the Max. That's already pretty big. But it does feel nice. It has the extra. It has the actual battery indicator for the chair for the case. It has a lightning to lightning connector. So my feeling now is I'm probably going to use it more on like vacations and places like we're going to Disney next month. And like always when I go to Disney, I always run out of my iPhone battery at some point because you're just taking a lot of pictures, you're walking around a lot, things like that. Yep. So, I'm going to take it on vacation with me. And then I'll that's the other thing. It's easy enough to swap out here and there, unlike the Morphe cases were a little bit more, I want to say permanent, but they were definitely not as easy to take on. It's holding up well. I was with the silicone here. I'm looking at it now. With the silicone cases, I was always concerned about them scratching, especially with the black, like getting marked up and scratching. But it's actually holding up pretty well. On that.
Yeah, I had the original silicone case because I bought it, and I was hating it because it was getting worn like right away, not even like within. I can understand 6 or 12 months of use, but like one month, I was like, this is ridiculous. So I traded it in, and then I went with the leather one for a while. The leather one was okay. It was still getting beat up, but at least not as bad as the silicone one was. But the quality of this silicone on this case is pretty awesome. I mean, compared to that.
And I'll tell you, my son, when he had his 7, he bought a battery case for the 7 off a friend, and it was a little beat up. It was beat up at the time, but that thing got destroyed. I've never seen an Apple device get that destroyed, and like the top started just coming off. Right. Almost the battery was exposed. So they're not indestructible, or at least they weren't. So you do have to watch out for that. But and then some people want to know why they don't make it. So so for me, I historically didn't have. This is my first one in a long time because I went as soon as the Plus phones came out, I was going to Plus phones, and they didn't make the battery case for the Plus phones.
Right.
And then I went to the 10, and they didn't have one for that. So this is my first one in a long time. But yeah, I like it definitely better than the Morphe ones. I like that the wireless charger works. My biggest complaint is I have in my car, I have a wireless car mount that if you put the phone in, it automatically has a motor that grips your phone.
Okay.
It's too big for it. So right now if I want to do it, I gotta put a rubber band around it so it doesn't fall off the mount. But I just ordered a different mount from Amazon that's actually coming tomorrow. So from pictures, it looks like the arms that grab it are a little bit further out. So I'm going to see if it works with that.
Okay. Now, the other thing is the battery, and I will test. I don't know if you've tested it at all. I bought this recording this on Monday. I bought the case on Saturday, used it for a full day on Sunday. And when you plug it in, because it's a smart case, it's a smart battery. You plug it in, that's the primary battery that it uses. So when you go in and look at the battery meters, it shows the smart case's battery, and then it shows the phone's battery. So right now the phone's at 100%, and after the first day, I think the battery went down to about maybe 11% on the case. So then I'm done for the day. I go put it on my Qi Charge stand that's on my nightstand, which it does fit, by the way, which I'm pretty psyched about, because that has a little stand that it drops on and just goes up against it like a clock radio. The home one, if anybody is familiar, the one I recommended for Christmas last year. So you charge it back up for the day, and then of course it's still using that battery, so it hasn't even touched the iPhone's battery. So I think I'm going to test it this time. I'm not going to charge it overnight tonight, and I'm going to let it go to zero, and then start using the iPhone's battery and see what happens. So that's telling me that I would probably be able to get 2 full days of use before having to do a full charge, which to me is pretty impressive.
That's great. I'm actually too chicken to test it out. I'm just scared that I'm going to need the battery. I'm historically.
I'm the same way. Like I said, you and I are really much alike. You know that we got to hang out more.
So as much of it. If there's an outlet, and if I have a laptop or a phone, I'm plugging in. And
I get obsessed. OCD with the battery. I can't. I carry the brick with me. I got the Anker 20,000 milliamp battery. I'm always carrying around with me. So you got to have that too. So
it's the fear of
I have to have battery. I can't. My phone can't be dead. People are like, "Oh well, my phone's dead." No, I can't. Yeah. I can't.
I know.
I'm impressed with it. I'm assuming that's how it functions. I've looked on Apple's website. I've done some research on it, and that seems to be what it does. It's a smart battery, so it knows that it's going to use that as your primary source of power. Because you look up at the battery gear, it actually shows that the battery is still being charged on the phone itself. So it is using that as a primary battery. So I'm very impressed with what it does. So I was looking at Mophie's website, and Mophie does have the case that they're coming out with for the 10s Max. I'm looking at it, and actually it has 2 separate jacks. It opens up to where the Lightning port is, and it has its own port for the case, which I find to be pretty interesting. It's a wireless and USB-C input on the case itself.
Yeah, they moved to that. My son also had a Morphe he had a Morphe case, and it was wireless. I guess they call it the Air version.
Yeah, I had the wireless one, and that was the first of the Qi charging battery cases when it came out, like about a year or 2. But it looks like this hasn't been released yet for the 10s Max. It says Q1 2019. So, but I'm looking at the picture of it, and it looks like this is the first time I can recall that Mophie actually is exposing both the jack for the case itself and for the phone.
I'm just like you. As far as being worried about it, I've had. Yeah. I don't know if you've had the problem, but I've had at least 3 of those cases. The micro USB connector.
Oh yeah.
Side of it. break inside of it 3 times, and
Yep.
that just turned me off from it at that point. I remember the company being pretty good because all 3 times I remember contacting them.
I've sent it, and they're a U.S. based company. They're actually based in Michigan, so
yeah,
I've shipped stuff to them before. So, but so those are two good choices if anybody's looking to have get a battery for their iPhone. Obviously, this smartphone case is only for the 10s, the 10R, and the 10s Max. There is an old one that's still, I think, available. I think it was for the iPhone 7, not the iPhone 8, right? That old phone, the old case.
But it works for the 8.
It works.
Yeah, it works for the 8, yeah.
And then Mophie. I mean, those are the only ones I really would recommend. There are others out there.
They need more colors, the Apple one.
Yeah, this one only has black and then what was it, white?
Black and white, and nobody was getting the white.
So. Yeah, and then the white would turn black real quick.
So. and then yours was fully dead when you bought it, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. That was the other thing, is it wasn't charged. Yeah, I had to charge it for a full night. So
somebody read a story said that it might have to do with the international shipping, and they weren't allowed to have charged devices on who knows.
But the phones are. That's what I was.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Anyway, those are cases, and we'll have links in the show notes for both Mophie and the Smart Case, so you can take a look at it. And we'll move on. Let's talk a little bit about two-factor authentication. We did touch upon it earlier in the article that was out there about that wonderful person suing Apple for not being able to change it after 2 weeks. And I have in notes how important really it is these days to really, you should have all your accounts protected this way. Your Apple ID has the option. If you don't have that enabled now, you're crazy. Now, one of the things I did encounter with when I was helping my friend set up his new phone, because Apple's very quick at when you exchange a phone that you turn it in and they want to erase the old phone, then you could just restore it from your iCloud backup. And then the way they've got it worded, when you go through and actually go through the process, say, because you have to do it manually, because now, I would have told them, hey, let's hold on to the other phone and do it automatically, so you can sync all this information right from the other iPhone. So, but what confuses people is when you go and it asks, well, you want to activate this phone, you got to get two-factor authentication on another device. Well, of course, you're not. If you don't have an iPad or a Mac, or you're going to get that code. Well, the good thing is, I guess I didn't realize it because of the way it's worded into the steps is, as long as it sees the phone has the SIM card from that line in the phone, you can just click, send code, and then it just goes on and continues. Well, you would think Apple would put something in there that says, this is what you do, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know that either. I've seen it.
And this is fresh in my mind from experiencing Saturday. So it's just, so just be aware, if you do activate your own phone for the first time, as long as you have the SIM card in the phone, the new iPhone that you replaced it with, and you go to run through the steps, and when it asks to send the code, you say send code, it just says okay, and it keeps going because it knows that's the phone. So, anyway, the two-factor authentication just super important, because for some reason, if you were to lose your phone or if you lose your device and then someone tries to sign in for the first time and it sees it's going to ask you to go through a second factor to approve the use of your device, and to have that code and for it to send that code, and instead of it being through text message, which is very insecure, would you agree SMS is not a secure thing to use?
That's correct.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, all these banks and all these other companies that you would think should be secure are using text all the time because it's an easy way out, because they don't want to deal with two-factor authentication. So Apple just sets it up so then what happens is, if you have an iPad, it'll show up on your iPad. If you have a Mac, it'll show up on your Mac, and it just says, okay, can you authenticate that this device is legit, signing into this account, and then it'll give you the code. Type the code in, and voila, you're done. And with two-factor authentication in itself, a lot of companies are even doing this now. Now, there's other two-factor tools out there besides Apple's for their ID, including Microsoft and Google. I'm assuming you've used that because we've both worked in the corporate world.
Yeah,
Microsoft has the authenticator.
The Google Authenticator, yeah, and the
Google
Microsoft
Authenticator. Yep. And then there's Authy is another one.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And then
It
One
does-
Password. One Password's another one that does have a two-factor authentication feature. And of course, other password managers have it as well. But that's my favorite password manager of choice. I'm assuming it is yours as well.
I'm bad. I need to get on the 1Password train.
Oh, you haven't used 1Password? Okay, I thought you were a 1Password user.
No, I mean, there's no reason why I should not be doing it. So I should really get onto it. I just pure laziness of starting it.
So, unfortunately, as I said, with banks a lot of times don't want to go through the hassle of having to maintain a two-factor authentication tool. Many corporate companies now are doing it by using Microsoft's two-factor authenticator tool. And what it does is it basically generates a code every 15 seconds. And probably some of you have probably seen, if you get really secure, it's got those fobs that you have with the number generator.
RSA.
The RSA ones, yeah, the RSA ones, yep. And I know some folks that have those, and that's what they have to do every time they want to get on their VPN. So that's another factor of security. I know a lot of
they're still out there. I mean, the authenticator apps are supposed to replace those, right. So you don't have to carry around the extra device. But a lot of places still do have those out there.
There was a great article, and I'm going to link it into the show notes from Intego, the Mac Security blog, and talking about two-factor authentication. Kirk McInerney, he wrote up a nice article about this. So I'll link back to the show notes for that. But these are a lot of the tools that you really should be considered using, especially Google. Google does it on their apps, and we know how well people keep their Google account secure, right?
Yeah, actually, Facebook has one. Facebook has one. I don't use it, but they have one too.
Oh yeah, I mean they're starting, and then the way to get how to use the app, they're using QR codes that you can scan with your camera to get authorization. There's any of a number of ways of doing this. So have you experienced anything else as far as any ones we've talked about relates to two-factor?
Not really. I mean, the thing you said with the text messages,
not secure.
It's not secure, but Apple has a thing now where it will read. If it does send you a text message, it will automatically read the code and put it through for you, which is kind of neat. My only thought is we're wearing Apple Watches. There's got to be a way to utilize that as a two-factor authentication protocol, because it's I could unlock my Mac with it.
Right, which I do.
Yeah. So in other words, if I'm trying to log into a new device, that device should be able to see the watch and say, "Hey, he's here." But we'll see. The only problem I have with the two-factor authentication is on if you ever install Windows, iCloud for Windows. If you ever have to work on a Windows machine, it's terrible. It's just out of the blue. Every so often, it just it will prompt again for the code for no reason.
I remember you posted that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're using Windows. We have to check again to make sure it's still you.
But yeah, take a look at the information we've got on our show notes. But highly recommend. We both highly recommend that you take advantage of two-factor authentication. I know it's a pain, but you know what? Protect yourself, because you never know. These hackers out there are getting have better skills every single day, and we're hearing it every day with all these hacks that have been happening. So check it out. So next thing I want to talk about a little bit, and of course this is going to probably be a little tougher for you because you don't have an iPad, or you do, but you don't have one with a pencil.
I have many, yeah.
I'm actually using iMore's article that just was written a couple days ago. 7 things you didn't know you could do with the Apple Pencil, and a couple of things that its lists I'm going to talk about a little bit is, and I'm sure you knew this, that you can replace the tip of your Apple Pencil because it can get worn down over time. And I think about it. I've had pencils for like the last 2 years. I don't think I've ever remember wearing down my pencil's tip.
Yeah. I had the pencil for the 10.5, and I could count on 0 fingers how many times I actually used the pencil. So
so So this is probably not a good topic for you.
Well, I mean, I'm wanting to, and I'm like, I really want to use this pencil for something, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm not very creative, and I'm not very artistic. I drew stick figures here.
Right. Yeah. So that's the first step they're talking about. One of the things they talk about. It's very easy to replace. It just the end of the pencil just unscrews, and then you can get an extra tip. And they sell like a 4-pack through Apple does for $19. So second thing, what you may not know is being able to tilt the pencil to shade and press for pressure. So when you draw using the Apple Pencil, you can easily shade an area, and there you go. You were talking about doing stick figures and shading and all that stuff. So you can tilt the Apple Pencil towards one side and then move the flat side of the pencil to tilt to shade it in, just as you would using an analog pencil on paper. I ever heard of them calling it an analog pencil, a number 2 pencil maybe? I love that term, analog pencil.
What was the poison that the pencils were made out of before?
Yeah.
They used to be lead. They used to be made out of lead, and then they went to graphite.
Yeah.
So we're that old. It's analog lead.
Yeah, crazy.
Quill.
So that's the cool thing about the pencil, and that's what I'm saying. For those of you who are in the market for an iPad, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, gosh, take a look at that Amazon deal for $249. Even if you were to buy the low end iPad for full price at $329, and you can get the pencil for I think like $95. What a combination! And just to have something simple to for drawing, you can't beat it, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, you could also get the crayon now.
Yeah, Logitech has the crayon, which is the third party brand. That one, cool. So and that's cheaper. It's like $45, I think it is. So
yeah, like $50.
Again, but it only works with that 9.7 inch. And, we also got to stress too. There's 2 pencils. There's the first gen pencil only works with the 9.7 inch and any of the older iPads, and then the Pencil 2, which is with the Pro, that only works with the Pros. So go ahead.
And the one with the new one with the Pro does a little fancier tricks.
The double tapping.
There's a double tap, yeah. And the iPad recognizes it a little different, and I guess it also sticks to the side.
It's magnetic. That's the one advantage you have with the pencil on the Pro is it's magnetic. It just you attach it to the side of the iPad and it charges it, which is awesome.
Right.
Because
the biggest complaint of the first gen was
it looks so dorky that you had to take the pencil,
terrible.
Take the cap off, which of course a lot of people probably lose, and then plug it into the lightning jack. Well, they did have that lightning to lightning adapter where you could plug in a cable and then plug the pencil in that way too.
Which everybody lost that one.
You lose that one too. So, in fact, I think I still have it, and I probably never gave it. Yeah, I do. In my drawer here. Yep, there it is.
I had one that went on my keychain, I think. Yeah, there it is.
I don't need this anymore. I probably should give that to the person I sold it to. And she probably, in fact, she doesn't. Obviously, she hasn't said anything to me, so she obviously knows. Oh, that's fine to plug that pencil in the bottom of the iPad. So, other thing that it has is palm rejection, and that was always the annoyances of the using the previous iPad styly was that you had to hold your hand in such a way where if you didn't rest your palm on the iPad. So with the Apple Pencil and the iPad Pro, it has near perfect palm rejection. So there's your other advantage as far as having the Pro versus the non-Pro version. Checking the pencil's battery, which can be a pain, and also this is also the place I was checking to where the smart case battery was, and my Apple Watch. So it shows up in that list on your iPad too. Well, of course, the Apple Watch doesn't show up on your iPad. It would only be the pencil and the iPad's battery. So you go into the notification center, you swipe from left to right, and it'll show that notification in there with the battery, and then it tells you how much battery is left in the pencil. Now, the cool thing with the iPad Pro, when you attach the pencil to the side and the magnetic catches it, it does have the little icon that shows up. It says pencil, and then the percent comes right up on the screen for you as soon as you attach it. So versus the old pencil, it doesn't do that. And we just talked about the double tapping of switching modes in the second gen Apple Pencil. it's got a flat surface. You do tap tap, and Apple. In fact, they demonstrated this during the last keynote for when the iPad was introduced. That Adobe with Photoshop's going to be coming out and taking advantage of that tap tap, or moving into different modes, that kind of stuff. That one seems to be pretty cool too. And you also can make changes to that too. And also, the other thing I didn't know too is tracing through paper. I don't know if you saw this in here. You can actually write on your iPad through paper using the Apple Pencil. Of course, you don't want to do it on thick paper, but standard print paper, it should work just fine. It's useful if you want to trace something like into a drawing of an app. So who knew? I didn't know that. Did you?
I did not. I know there's I don't know if it's a tip or not, but there's a screen protector for the iPad that it's clear, but it's got a paper texture to it. And people say if you do a lot of pencil on the iPad, it feels more like writing on paper.
Yeah.
And then they like it. So I'll try to find a link to that if you want to put that in the notes.
Yeah. If you think about it, going through in our notes here.
It gets mixed reviews. It's basically great for drawing on the iPad and okay for a screen protector is kind of the reviews it gets.
Yeah. So check this article out. I always like linking to articles because we've got folks that are very knowledgeable out there. But you listening to us tell you about it and gives us you get some of our insights to what these things do and have experience with it. So the pencil is a pretty awesome device, and obviously you got to just decide which iPad's best for you. And at least now you have choices. Because before you had no choice, you had one choice. Now you have two.
So now I started this show not wanting an iPad Pro, and now
what did I do?
Man, they look so pretty.
Yeah.
And that pencil, I know I'll never use it, but you just gotta have it. It's calling to me.
So, all right, we're moving on to this part of the show that we have some app picks. I picked one app, but I'm waiting with interest. You said you have an app that you wanted to share with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of looked at my phone. I'm like, what do I use all the time? But the one that kind of popped out, I have a couple shopping apps, but one's called Deal News. Yeah. So, it's great for people who want to look for sales on certain things. But what they do a lot on the electronics section is they'll find a app either for iOS or Android that's either really on sale or free. That's normally not. So it's a good place to look if you're looking for an app. And the other day they had one that was free. I don't know if it's still free out there, but it's called Just Talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a voice. It's a dictation app. You launch it, you dictate it, and then there's options to email what you just dictated or copy and paste or Facebook it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was, according to them, normally $10 that was free the other day. So yeah, just take a look at the. It's also a dangerous app to Deal News because you'll go on there and it says
stuff.
You go to the electronics section and here's a nice. They had the fully maxed out 2018 15-inch Pro LA computer, I think, for $3,200.
Oh my gosh,
$800 off or something like that. And I'm like, I shouldn't be looking at stuff. But that's my pick.
All right. Well, I have a free app, so you'll rest assured you'll be able to jump on this. And I would assume you've played with this before. It's Apple Clips. And Clips is a great little app. It's free. Apple designed it. So it allows you to be able to do some kind of fun things with videos and posters and photos and call outs. And I did a video for someone who was retiring last week. We wanted to send a video since she was out on the East Coast and I'm here in the Midwest. So what I did was I recorded. It has, and this is, and I just had found out that this only is available on the 10s or the 10, the 10s, and the 10R and 10s Max is scenes. And what it is you tap the scenes button here, and there's all kinds of scenes here. Like right now, I've got one where it's showing me that I got the the clouds behind me, and it's picking things up here. You can. There was another scene where it looked like and that's when I use it looks like I'm in the Wild West, and it's got the mountains behind me, and you can type and you can talk and you can record the video, and it's pretty cool. Some cool different scenes that you can play with, and I know it's probably many of other things like what Instagram does, really, where you can start doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Have you used this app before?
I installed it like when it first came out.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it in a while.
I played with it when it first came out, and I didn't think it was bad. It was good at the time, but I just it kind of got lost in the shuffle of all my other apps. So I'll definitely look at it again because.
I got a link to. I have a link to it in the show notes. They actually have an app has a pretty cool website that it's easy to remember, apple.com/clips, and it actually shows what it can do. Gives you all the things that you can do, just like Apple does with their websites. They show everything.
When it first came out, wasn't it it was limited to like a very short.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Yeah, but this last one I recorded. No, I probably recorded it for about a minute. It's not for something real lengthy. That's why they call it clips. You want to do something. But of course, iMovie is available on iOS as well. As well as with Mac OS, but and you can do video editing with that. So it's easy to share, which is cool, and it was a lot of fun. So, and I can't say I not have fun with it. So, anything else you have in mind, and apps or any other things that you're experiencing with iOS as of late, or before we wrap it up here?
No, not really. I mean, just standard things I'm on all the time. Facebook and.
You love Facebook. You're one of the few people I never hear bellyaching that much about Facebook. I'm sure you do a little, but we all do. But
I could sit here and complain about it, but you know what? It's done more good than harm, and
I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. Just don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta learn how to. You gotta have somewhat thick skin and a sense of humor, and
sure.
and when you get past that and don't take it so seriously, then it's a lot of fun. So
yeah. So, well, I can't thank you enough for being here, Warren, and I definitely would love to have you come back another time because we're keeping my rotation of guests coming onto the show, and we're having a lot of fun doing that with here. I'll talk
anytime.
And tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. And we talked about at the beginning of the show, and you can give a little more information about Mac to the Future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really tweet or Instagram so much.
You're all Facebook, I know.
I'm on Facebook. I have an email. I have like 20 email addresses that nobody needs to have because who cares. So find me on Facebook. If I'm in a bunch of the Apple groups, but I moderate the Mac to the Future group. Yeah. I am a moderator in a couple of the others out there, but just this one's my baby, more or less. I try to.
It is, because every time I see a post, not even 2 seconds later, there's a reply from Warren.
my 10s Max is sort of part of my hand at this point. When Apple can figure out how to like attach it to my face, it will be even worse at that point. But they're getting there. So yeah, join the group.
Yeah, please.
And participate in there.
Yeah, I can't recommend it more. Like I said, I stumbled upon it because I was, you and I were connected because of Guy Cyril, and of course I connected with Guy from MacStock, and we're still trying to twist your arm to come to MacStock here this year.
One day.
It's our 5th year, so they just put out the posts for the early bird specials. We'll start talking about that in the next future episodes. So, but we would love to have you come out. Guy's the star. Guy and Tim are the big stars of that show. At some piece of it anyway. That's
good. Oh yeah, I do. I do work. So I also do some work for Tim and.
Oh, do you? Okay, Tim Robertson.
I do. I'm a reviewer.
Oh, that's right. That's right for mymac.com.
Yeah, so that's a great gig because they'll send me things to play with, and a lot of times I get to keep it. So
they had asked me, and I kind of just didn't do it. I guess I regret not doing it now.
It's fun. Of course, gadget drawers full of crap that I'll probably never use again. But it's fun.
All right. So, we really appreciate you coming on to the show. And with that, this is a wrap. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address at feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter at intouchwithios. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. Or better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there at the top. I am Dave Ginsberg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. And again, Warren, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.